Hello everyone, welcome to the Pushing Horizon podcast. This is your host Ash. Sometimes life hits you harder than any race. You train, you grind, you build yourself up, and bam, suddenly your body shuts you down. Viral myocarditis. That's not an injury. That's your heart saying stop. Imagine going from prepping for a marathon to hospital tests, from planning your next run to wondering if you ever run again. Shakes you to the core. You start questioning everything: your body, your identity, your purpose. But courage isn't about powering through when things go right, it's about standing back up when everything falls apart. It's running again when you are scared your heart might not hold up. It's rebuilding slowly, patiently, quietly, without the noise. Because sometimes the strongest runner, because sometimes the strongest runners aren't the one chasing PRs. They are the one who comes back from the edge, 1 mile at a time. And on that note, please let me introduce to our guest today. Here is Neena. Hey Neena, welcome to the podcast, and I'm so glad you are here. And we were able to chat a little bit about Michigan and Berlin.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to finally meet you, and thank you for having me on, Ash. I appreciate it.
Yep, no worries. I know you a little bit, and I don't know you at the same time. So, can you please give a quick introduction on who is Neena?
So, I am an exercise physiologist, so I have a very clinical background in what I do. I'm also a mom, wife. I try to stay active myself, kind of practice what I preach with patients. Runner. I like to exercise in general, try to have as much fun as I can doing that. But as an exercise physiologist, I see a lot of heart disease patients. So that's kind of the primary clinical background that I have. And just kind of further pushes me to stay active and stay healthy, knowing what can happen. So there's no guarantees in life, right? But just try to do my best and help everybody else out along the way.
I hope that's not the reason we are getting into running. Is I just don't want
No,
any heart diseases.
no. I mean, I've gotten into running. I think I kind of took it up a little more seriously after I was living on campus during my undergrad, and I just was running to stay in shape. And my campus, the recreation center, was like a 1 to 2 minute walk from my dorm. So I just go work out, do my thing. And then I signed up for a 5K after my undergrad, and it was on the university's campus. And after that, I became hooked. I had goals to tackle every distance at some point and push myself to run and race. But running became very therapeutic, and that was the biggest reason why I've been running is it helps a lot to manage anxiety, stress. You just get your shoes on and you can just go running. It's not too difficult. Obviously, with the weather conditions, it can be a little challenging, but it's the biggest source of stress relief for me. So that's the biggest reason why I've started running.
You just said just put on your shoes, but then once you get hooked, put on your chest strap, put on your
Yeah.
vest, put on your Garmin watch,
Yeah,
put on
you got
that
your
carbon fiber
watch.
shoes.
Yeah, everything. It's not a
Yeah.
cheap sport. I know people like to joke about that too. It's not a cheap sport. So yeah, heart rate monitor. Like the wrist watches don't
Yeah.
always get your heart rate data the best. The shoes, you're not as simple as it maybe
It's
once
got to be
was.
matching.
Yeah, you gotta be matching. Gotta make sure your outfit is complete, right? So I know it's definitely evolved over the years from just going out. I didn't even have a watch back then. I didn't have anything like that. I had I think a Polar watch and with a chest strap, and it measured my heart rate, right? And anything, I just kind of estimated the data on the distance. I didn't really have any way of knowing. And then the phones, now they had apps, so you take your phone with you. Like we've come
Yeah.
a long way with how we run, I think.
We have. I mean, yeah, it's more data oriented now than how it used to be. Now people are more into data. Look at my heart rate, look at my cadence, look at my like landing of my feet, or looks like I'm tilted this way or that way. So lot of good things and bad things because it's sometimes if you have a lot of things and it's bad too because you get consumed over with it and then it's not funny. It's just God, am I running or am I just doing a study of my run? So
Yeah, no,
sometimes it's hard.
it is very difficult. I find myself doing that too. How do we become better runners? That data is obviously with when I did my master's degree research, it was very research focused and looking at the data, looking at research and running economy, or now it's like your HRV. There's so much data out there. It's so hard to determine what what's the right thing to look at. Is it too much? Is it too little? Do I really need to worry about that? I know it's a lot. It's kind of it can suck the fun out of running sometimes when you're just focused on those things. So I always try to bring it back to why I run. Why do I do what I do and try not to lose sight of that. All we can do.
In that note, why do you run?
I will run until I can't run any longer, but running is, like I explained, very freeing and it allows me to find just a quiet space. I still run with headphones in, but I've run without too. And just that moment of peace. It's my time for myself. And they there's lots of studies that show exercise helps improve your mood and helps calm the nervous system down. So it's part of that too. It's just to help manage a lot of general anxiety and stress. And then if I can be out in nature, that's even better, being out. And we have a lot of trails by us, which is really nice. So try to immerse myself in nature. You're stuck inside an office all day, right? Go out and see things, do things. And then there's the other side of it. I'm trying to challenge my body. Maybe there's a goal, maybe there's something I'm trying to improve upon physically and aerobically. And then, of course, just to continue to stay in good shape, help my body be a better physical body and hopefully prevent any kind of illness or disease the long term. I think about that given what I do, but so it's a lot of different reasons why I run.
Can you go back to the moment you just said that when you got into running when you were undergrad and you wanted to get fit, that's always the primary reasons with us Asians because we don't do it
Yeah.
just for the fun of it because it's always to get in shape. So can you remember the first time you ran and now you have run multiple marathons? So how is the feeling then and now?
It's kind of the same, and then it's kind of changed a little bit. If you asked me back then if I would run a marathon, I'd tell you no way. I don't think I'd be capable of running anything like that. So I think it's kind of built up over the years, but the same mentality, running is fun or it's something that just gives me that sense of mental relief. Like I always try to bring it back to that. So that hasn't changed, whether I was just doing like 2 miles on the treadmill at the gym or I'm just trying to focus on getting a little faster, not worrying about a race or anything like that. To now, that same like I need to go for a run feeling, it hasn't changed since I started. It's just gotten more evolved, I think, over the years.
Out of your marathons that you have completed, so over throughout this journey of yours, which one has taught you the most and in what way?
Mm. So probably the more recent, it's been about I think 2 or 3 years since I've done my last marathon. So the first two that I did were virtual, meaning it was during the pandemic and a lot of places were not doing in-person racing. So you had signed up anyway to do
Yeah.
the distance. So I did the distances, one with a group of people, the second one was on my own, and my husband and son came and cheered me on towards the end. It was kind of cute. And the last one I did was in person. So it a neighboring city. It's about 45 minutes away. And I think that one taught me the most about my abilities and my training, and that I can do it, and I can most likely do even better if I tried again next time. My fueling was great. The weather conditions were perfect. And it just kind of worked out really well where I felt strong throughout the entire marathon. And I tell even my patients who want to listen, I tell them the last 10K, I felt great. I was able to like kind of negative split the last 10K of the marathon. And that gives me a lot of
Nice.
hope. Yeah, that I can do even better if I really try hard. There's no guarantees when you go into a marathon. The goal is always to finish. And I tell people that a lot, that you can do all the right things. And then when race day comes, it may not work out, even just for a lot of different reasons and so many variables. But it taught me a lot of believing in myself and realize I am capable of doing more. A real like race setting, it worked out great. It wasn't a very big race either, which I think helped quite a bit too. Some of the people, they run major marathons, and that's the biggest complaint. There's a lot of people, right? So it's hard to get past the crowd. I think this was like maybe 115, 120 people running the full marathon in this race, and then they had other distances. So I think that helped quite a bit too, knowing that it wasn't a huge crowd that I had to kind of like sift through and pace accordingly too.
Yeah, usually in the bigger races there are more people, and also you said the first marathon you did was with the people, right?
Yeah,
That's okay because you can do it virtually with friends. You can talk about it. You can have fun and stuff like that. But then you said you did it again and by yourself.
that was hard.
That's rough
Yeah.
because yeah, it is hard because where did you get that motivation to do it by yourself? Because if there is no race, then it's typically very hard to run the distance because there is no crowd,
Right.
there is nothing to motivate you, or there is nothing to see because you're on a road and it sucks.
It does. And that's the biggest thing. So the first time I ran it with a group of people and they had stations set up and everything, it was a lot of fun. It was fun. And even though it wasn't ideal, we still made the best of it. The second time it was when Boston Marathon had set up a virtual option during the pandemic, and you could do the Boston Marathon, but you'd still have to complete the distance. You still had to show them that you did it, and then they send you everything. So it's not like you just get it. So I think knowing that I still had to run the distance, that was a big motivating factor. I didn't know anybody else that would be willing to run with me. Like I wasn't too confident in finding somebody. And after the fact, I probably could have, looking back, I could have found someone to do at least one leg with me or something. I ended up doing a lot of out and back to help with the fueling and keeping the hydration. That helped a little bit. And then, like I said, my husband and son were they walked down and they were kind of cheering me on the last bit. So that helped a little bit, but it required a lot of mental fortitude to deep and try to get that distance done because you're right, you don't have the crowds there, you don't have any extra support, you're not running with somebody, or you can watch somebody and kind of follow along with their running, right? So it was very mentally challenging to and grueling to do the distance. And then it was also hot and humid.
Mhm.
I waited too late to start, so that doesn't help either, right? It was definitely challenging.
It does not. It is hard to run marathon itself, and if there are no people around then it's much harder because you have the option to finish, right?
Mhm.
You can stop your watch and you can just stop it, but if you're running a race then everybody's running, then you want to run, you want to compete with yourself, you want to go distance. That's why it's very hard. Like when you're doing by yourself, I find it mentally harder than actually running the marathon with the crowd because at a slight pain, ache, or whatever, you're like, I'm not running a marathon, I'm just doing it. I don't need to do it.
Right.
And that's what my mentality is like. It's just like I I've not done a longer distances without marathons or races. So maybe that is what I need to change because I am getting into ultras and now it's getting longer as I go and as I train, it's different.
Yeah, that's a different kind of training altogether. So I give you a lot of credit. I don't know if I could do anything like that. I think marathon distance is probably where I'd stop, but I give you guys a lot of credit. Follow a lot of people that do ultras or training for something like that. And it's not only time consuming, it's very physically demanding. So you guys have to do double runs or try to stack up the mileage in a different way. And that can be a lot. So I give you a lot of credit.
I don't believe you just said I cannot do it because I disagree with that. I think you can do it. And if you think about it, then it's much easier than running a marathon or training for a marathon because this is my first ultra. And if you would not believe me, I'm running 2 minutes slower than my marathon pace, right? So
Mhm.
everything is easier. I don't have to look at my watch every time. I just go run based on how I feel and how long I need to stay outside, because it's based on time and not about the distance.
Right.
And it is nice because there is no pressure on you and you can eat whatever.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing is you can go eat. Yeah, give me snacks, give me everything. I'll eat everything. So I think that has been like you. I also had the same feeling. I was talking to Angus, and his name comes up a lot. When I did the last Berlin Marathon, I told him, "Bro, I'll sign up for ultra marathon." Way before the Berlin Marathon, I told him, and then I finished it, and I didn't do it. And then I started talking to these ultra runners that are my friends, and when we did the podcast, and it's so cool. It sounds so fun, and they are so inspiring. They are like talking, motivating,
Mhm.
and have all the DNFs. And even though under the tough circumstances, they're going back and fighting again, pushing through, and learning from it. And I feel like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
I need to do something. I need to challenge it. I need to get out of this comfort bubble that I'm living in, where I'm just okay doing marathons because I feel that I cannot do it. So Erin was the last person I talked to, and then she told about her experience, how she DNF'd, and it was not fun. I think that episode is so good. Like,
Mm.
it's very vulnerable. And then I went to bed that night and I thought about all the conversations with Milton, James, everybody before, and asked. And the next morning, I went and I Googled the race that I can find for my first ultra, and then I registered. So I think you can totally do it.
Mhm.
It's you that is holding yourself back, and I believe you can do it because it's so much easier. If you start training for ultra, then you'll find it that it's much different than
Mhm.
training for the actual marathon.
Yeah, I think you're right. So ultra is a little less time oriented, like you explained. There's less pressure, and I think all those things are great. And you can run, you can walk, you don't have to worry about all that
Hmm?
so much. So maybe I will think about it. More so finding the time to
Oh,
make sure I do
okay.
everything, but I maybe I'll think about it.
Here we go. Now we are talking. Now we are talking. It's. I think you're gonna do it. So I'm excited to see which one you sign up
I'll have to
for
look
your
and see.
first.
There are a few that I have friends. One of my college friends actually, and she's done many ultra marathons, and just give her so much credit, and she did it. And so I know if she could do it, then I know I could possibly do it too. She'd go all over the United States and do a lot of these ultra marathons. So 50, 100 milers, all those distances. So I'll look into it. Maybe something will stick out, and maybe I'll register one day soon.
Yes. If you can, like Milton said, if you can run a marathon, you can easily run a 50K. If you can run a 50K, you can easily run a 100K. If you can run a 100K, then you can easily run 160K. So
Mhm.
that's what he told me. So that's what I'm like relaying his message to. He's good. I like the way he talks, and then I think it's really addictive. This ultra running community is because I've interviewed so many people, and all of them are going through hell. It's not, I spoke to the people who did Kokorona. They slept 1.5 hour, 1 hour, 50 minutes. Dante is the only one who slept more. Sorry, Dante. Yeah, he's the only one who slept 3 hours. But other than that, everybody was sleeping less than 2 hours. They have been running for 3 days straight, 4 days straight, and it just wow. And it's just amazing, like how we can do with our body if we only try. And the goal from this podcast is to, like you, right? You just said, okay, it sounds nice. I want to do it because we always believe that we cannot do something. So the goal is to lit that fire inside us
Mm.
that will move us forward and get out of this comfort zone that we are in and take that first step. If you take that first step, then everything else will be taken care of. Like you can just go and enjoy it. And then that is the goal, is to, like you, somebody else listening and they're like, okay, he's talking about, and it sounds easy. It is easy, but it doesn't. You have to take that first step and just do it. And I believe in you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's just once you feel motivated to try a different distance, then it's not a problem. So just like with the marathon distance, I was doing a lot of halves and didn't really think anything about the full marathon distance and didn't think I was ready for it. And finally, I felt like, okay, maybe I can do this and felt motivated. So I think you have to feel motivated and ready to take on whatever distance it is, whether it's someone going from a 5K to a 10K or a 10K to a half marathon, that those leaps and bounds that people make, you're not going to make the change, you're not going to make that jump until you're really ready to do that. If you're ready and motivated, then you're going to put the effort in and you're going to do okay.
No, I disagree with that. You sign up and then you'll be ready. That was my same exact thing I did too. I said, I'm gonna train for it and I'm gonna be ready and I'm gonna run these ultras, and it never happened. So that's why I signed up, and then
Oh,
I had
well,
to do
right,
it now
right.
because
Yeah.
it's already booked. So there is no other way for me to not do
Oh
it,
yeah, you
and
have to
it's
sign
been
up
nice.
first. Yeah,
I
you have to sign up first. Like you have to, if you commit, then you
Yep.
have to sign up for a race. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Yeah, that, sorry, that was, I meant more so you're ready to do that race or distance,
Oh,
then you should be
yep.
ready to do it. And then you pick whatever race you want to do, and then you train. You don't have a choice, like you said. You got to do it, right?
Yeah, and honestly, it's so much fun. Because I did Berlin Marathon, I failed to get my goal, and I was down. I didn't want it to run. I hated it, and it felt like a job. Now, my next training block was Egypt Berlin Marathon, which is 6 weeks after the ultra, and I was getting, I couldn't run for a few months because of the sickness. And as I started come back to running, I just hated it because why am I doing it? Because it's going to be another failure, because that's what I thought, that I can't run. I couldn't get the goal, and I was like in the same thing, like why I'm doing this, because I cannot do it. And then through this podcast, I started talking to people, and I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds nice. And then once I signed up and then I started training again, then my volume is back up. I'm doing much longer distance that I like did before, and it feels nice. I'm not burnt like I was before,
Hmm.
because it's not a job now. Because before I wanted to get certain time, so every run was like I need to hit like a 5 minute pace, 4:30, and I had to commit to all of that pressure and everything, and it felt like, oh my god, I'm drained, I'm exhausted mentally, physically. And when you go and do this race and you cannot get that result, and it's just so disappointing because you put months into the training and then it just feels like you lost. And that's what I felt like. I was like, I don't feel the love for running, and we'll do it because we can do it and we want to do it. And it was just sad. So now I'm so much happier that I can run again. I don't have to look at my watch like, okay, 5 minutes, I need to run faster, I need to keep up this pace. Now I don't care. Now I just stroll around. If I need to walk the hill, like,
Not a
so
big
be it.
deal.
I just go eat, yeah, eat quesos, eat something, and it's so much fun mentally too, because I am not putting myself into pressure, and I'm just enjoying it, and I'm enjoying this journey. So yeah,
Yeah, I think,
welcome to the Ultra team.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think you hit the nail on the head though, with if it feels like work and it doesn't feel enjoyable, then it's not sustainable. And I tell patients who are trying to get back into exercise or trying to do something after stents or bypass, and I tell them you don't have to run to feel good. You can do any kind of exercise that works for you, whatever makes you happy and what makes it enjoyable, because we're not going to want to do something that ends up being a chore or work after a while, right? You're going to get burned out, you're going to get injured, you're not going to find the joy in what you enjoyed doing before, so it's not sustainable that way. So I'm glad you found something else that helps you keep going and less pressure and in a more carefree kind of way. You can just go and you don't have to worry about it as much. And I still try to incorporate that even in training, even if I have a goal race or goal pace or time, no matter what the clock says at the end of the day, as long as I did my best. I try to be happy with that. There's still disappointment. There's still things that are going to come up. In all the years that I'm running, I've been through so much, but you learn to either, go with the flow or adjust or take a step back and reevaluate and try to find like your why. Why do you run? And you can come back to that. I think that helps keep you going, whatever you're doing, whether it's a full marathon or a 5K or an ultra marathon.
What is that joy for you in this sense, since we're in this topic? So, what is the joy looks like for you when you're running?
I think it's just moving my body. Running for me has been, it makes me feel good. I know that people don't always get that runner's high. It becomes meditative too, especially the longer I run. So I end up just kind of zoning in and zoning out at the same time. Things around me, people, running with friends. That's another thing that now, in the beginning, I was very much I ran by myself quite a bit. And over the years, I've kind of learned to find this running community and run with people. And that's also brought me a lot of joy too and hold you accountable. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna go meet people up for a run and I'm gonna run. Not you're kind of like, I have to get up and go. So that keeps you kind of motivated too. But yeah, just meeting friends for runs, going out in nature and running. My husband's getting back into running now too, so we've been running together every now and then. That's nice. Kind of help keep him going and motivating him a little bit too. So it's kind of shifted, but the idea is the same. It's just because I can run, I guess. That's something I try not to take for granted anymore either.
Yeah, and in that note, you said 2024 was a tough year for you. And when we run for a long time, when when it's part of us, part of our daily routine, whether it's for the therapy, for the mental health reasons, or just the time off that we need from our partners or whatever, where we can just go chill, enjoy the birds, look at the sunset, or just look at that dot, or just say, it sucks why I'm running, but it's our way out of this world, and like for us to go and just like chill. How was this moment for you when you found out what was happening? And I cannot imagine like how you went through.
Yeah, it was pretty scary. So it started off with me like just not feeling good, just like you would think you're coming down with something. And it took a few days off of running. And I know better than to push through illness. And then it was like a Thursday, and I went to go do a track workout before work. And I was just struggling when I know I shouldn't have been struggling to breathe. My legs felt heavy. I was feeling dizzy. Ended up having to walk home, and I was just really out of breath. And working in healthcare, I know too much. So I immediately thought, is it a pulmonary embolism or am I in heart failure? Like, why am I having so much trouble breathing? So I kind of let it go and went to work. And even my coworkers were a little concerned with how out of breath I was. And I said, maybe it's just my asthma acting up. And saw the doctor the next day, and he's wonderful. And he did a lung function test, and he's like, I don't think it's your lung. So I'm worried about the same things that I'm worried about. So it was kind of validating. So he ordered blood work, and I went and had it done at the hospital. And with technology, a lot of this stuff comes up on your phone. You can see your results, your data, right? Well, a couple of markers came back elevated. So one is it's a cardiac enzyme called troponin, and usually when that's up past a certain threshold, that means you could be having a heart attack. The other one was D-dimer, which isn't always the best indicator, but it could mean you're having a pulmonary embolism. So I saw those numbers up and I called him. I said, should I go to the emergency room? He goes, yes, they can at least rule out those things for you. So, of course, I'm like, great. How did this happen? And luckily, the hospital took my symptoms and everything very seriously and ruled out a lot of issues. But the CT showed that my the right side of my heart was strained, so they kept me for observation and had me follow up with cardiology. But I didn't know, and they couldn't tell me what was wrong. They didn't know. They couldn't give me a diagnosis. So I was in the hospital for 4 days, still having trouble with dizziness and breathing. They walked me around the unit and my oxygen was dropping. My oxygen saturation was just dropping, which is why I was having so many dizzy spells. And anytime I moved, they were like ready to put me on oxygen in the room because I was getting lack of oxygen. So they didn't give me an answer. It was very frustrating. They didn't know what was going on at the time. They just called it a post-viral syndrome, sent me home with steroids, told me to not go to work for a week, no running, and it was pretty stressful because I didn't feel bad. I started to feel a little bit better, but when I'd go out and try to run, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I kept hitting like a roadblock. I could run maybe a quarter of a mile and then feel really winded and had to stop and walk. So I had to like figure this out. So I had other testing in the meantime. My lungs were fine. The cardiologist didn't see anything wrong. So they're like, this, whatever it is. It's not until I saw my actual cardiologist, because I have some electrical issues with my heart, and she looked at all my records and she said what I suspected, but she gave it some confirmation and she said, you had viral myocarditis. That's what happened. And she said, and that's the inflammation of the muscle in the heart, and it can come on after illness. The infection can attack the healthy tissue in your body. And she said it takes about 6 to 9 months for recovery. She didn't think there was any additional
What?
testing. Yeah, 6 to 9 months. So at that point, when I saw her, I think it was already like 2 months after being in the hospital and then or a little longer potentially. So 6 to 9 months was going to be like February to like ish around because that's about 6 months after being in the hospital. So I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? So that's crazy, but it makes sense because a lot of things just take time, and I know that. I had signed
Mhm.
up for a marathon in November and the doctors are like, I don't think you'll be able to do the marathon. That may have to be put on hold. And I was trying to stay optimistic, but ultimately I just never ran it was the Indianapolis marathon in November, and I, I I didn't do it. There was no way I was going to be able to do the distance, even a half, because I was just not feeling good still. My running had suffered quite a bit. It was a lot because at the time you didn't have an answer, and then you're not feeling good and it's not getting better. And all this training I had done up until that point before I was in the hospital, I just felt like it just got wiped out after I got sick. So it was very upsetting. And I just try to tell myself, hopefully it'll just get better and hopefully I'll feel better. And like I said, when my cardiologist gave me the diagnosis, I realized that, okay, there's some hope that it will get better. It's just going to take time and some rebuilding and just being patient and kind with myself. And that's when I try to focus back to why I run and the joy of running, whether it's I can do a half mile today or a mile tomorrow or whatever it is, right? Just to move and not train for anything, to take that pressure off of me and just focus on feeling better. I think that really helped shift my mindset from being too disappointed to, okay, I can still move, right? I can still run, and that's still a good thing.
And patience and like taking time is not our strongest virtue being runner is because we don't have that patience. It's just like whether you have injury sickness is we always want to get back. And how are you feeling right now? Because that's a long time off, especially if you have been running for a while. Then like I said, with so many factors leading to running, that we use it for so many things. And how did it affect you mentally and physically during all this time off that you have had?
I still try to lift weights. We've been getting into tennis again. So there's other things that I do that won't be as stressful that I can still move. So it may not be ideal, but I knew it wasn't going to be long term that I couldn't run. So I think knowing that I wasn't completely out of running, it was just temporary. So I told myself that. And then, like you said, I still try to go running after all that. Reality check, right? So I kind of just started doing run walks instead, or I try to be more flexible. And I think that really helped me feel a little bit better when I made a little more progress as I went on. So now I can run with very little issue. We're past the 9 month that period, and the only difficulty is now is, and we all do this as runners, we compare our and data to where we're at now, right? And you always hope that there's improvement. But before all this happened, my paces were great. I was having no problem with track workouts and mentally was doing fine. And now it's like you almost like that fear of failure. Like, am I gonna hit that roadblock again when I'm running? Am I gonna have trouble? And I'm not as fast as where I was before all this happened either, right? But a lot of that just takes time. I know that logically, but mentally you're upset. I used to go faster. Why I can't do that right now. And so it in a way it can be a little bit upsetting because we like to play the comparison game in general as runners, but I think we compare it to ourselves even more and we're our worst critics more often than not. So I try not to do that as much right now. I try to find some joy in, oh, maybe I was able to hit this pace for a little bit today, or I felt good on this run. Not everyone's going to feel the best in general. So that's something to keep in mind too. So I'm trying to remind myself that it's fine. But it was, like I said, pretty scary there for a while, just kind of waiting and waiting and seeing if it was going to go away and if I was going to feel better. Yeah, it was just a lot going on, a lot.
I'm editing the episode with Lucy Bartholomew right now, and when you're talking about that, she mentioned something like comparison is a thief of joy because whether it's comparing ourselves from last year or comparing ourselves with some other athlete that are out there, and it always undermines the progress that we have made,
Mhm.
because we could have been faster before, but there could be so many reasons that we are not right now, because things always change. And I can totally understand how you are feeling. It's hard. Like the 9 month is a long time to not run, and you need to have a really good mental fortitude for that, because it's, I don't know what would I do if I don't run and not do it, because I feel like if I don't run, then I get this sad and I feel like what should I do, because I don't know any other thing that I can do apart from running, because that's the only thing that gives me joy. So if I think how my life would be without running, and it sucks. And I'm right now, I was in this mini injury break because I overused my muscles. So I have not run a lot since last week. Yesterday I did 5K or something like that. But those few days, as I'm my ultra is coming near, and then this injury and this ability to not run is just so stressful, because what am I gonna do? And I don't know what else to do, because you can go to elliptical, but oh my god, that is like this soul sucking thing, I call it. My girlfriend call it too, soul sucking, because it's so boring, right? You sit there, you there's nothing else to do. It just you sit there and it's like, when will this be over? Because I am dying of this boredom, that you just have to sit there, do nothing else. So that's what I felt. And I sat there for the first time I did it 1 hour, and then the next day I went in and I did 1 hour and 10 minutes and 1 hour 16 minutes, and it's such a long time to sit in that thing, and it was so boring. I was like, oh my god, I hate this, I can't wait to get back to run. So I don't know how would you feel, because I cannot imagine to be in your spot, and those like, you are very brave, that what I'd say.
I mean, I was able to run, but it's more so I lost a little bit of confidence in my running when I had to take a step back. I think that was probably the hardest part. And I was just focusing on shorter runs, like 3 or 4 miles, just trying to get back into doing some base training when I was okay. My cardiologist didn't give me any kind of restrictions. She just said, you'll feel better when you feel better, and it's just going to take time. And if you've been running and you're feeling okay, then just keep doing it, but listen to your body. And that's what her recommendation is. And I've had her for a doctor for a little while, so she knows that I'm not. I'm just gonna go try to run a marathon the next day kind of thing, but obviously be reasonable. So I think I was still able to run a little bit during that process. But like I said, it was the confidence that I lost, confidence in my abilities. Am I going to feel good today? Am I not going to feel good today when I run? You don't know how any run's going to go, whether you've been sick or not, right? So that's always a thing you have in the back of your mind. But when I was getting over this myocarditis, the day to day was very iffy. So it was frustrating to say the least. But I tried to, like I said, do small things. I wouldn't do the elliptical either. And with you there, I usually would bike. We have a spin bike at home. Gym has all kinds of stuff there too. So I would do anything else but the elliptical. I don't feel like I get any kind of workout on that machine either. So I'm with you there on that. It's not the best. But my my mantra is something is better than nothing. So over the years, I've kind of developed that way of thinking, and I think that really helps in times of when you have an injury and when you're not able to do the thing that you truly love and enjoy, that something is better than nothing because it's better than sitting and being, unless warranted, completely sedentary, but you're at least doing something. You're moving, you're helping your body. And is it in the way we want it to be? No, because we would rather be out running. But if it means moving your body, working out, getting your heart rate up, doing something that sort of mimics running, then I would still rather do that than not run at all or not being able to move at all. That in itself is tough. So something is better than nothing. I tell my patients that all the time too. We're talking about people who are sick or trying to get back into doing something, and I tell them a 10-minute walk is better than no walk. Something that you have to, I'd rather do a 10-minute run and walk before and after if I could. Like I'll take anything, right? But like something is, I'd rather people move than sit around and not do anything. So having that mentality helps a little bit too, I think.
Definitely. And for you, like since you're trying to get back to this rhythm of running again, have you tried elliptical again? Because I know it sucks, right? But it is one of the best form to build the base that you need to run longer distances. Because I have noticed, because I totally changed my training. Because before I used to run 5 to 6 times a day when I was running body marathon. Now, even though I'm running longer distance than marathon,
Hmm.
I only do 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And I started putting an elliptical on it because that will give you that zone 2 base that you need to run faster, long, more, build endurance. So I don't know if you want to do it. It sucks, but it helps a lot.
I do other things for zone two training. Like most of my runs are meant to be easy. That's the prescriptive advice is most of your runs should be easy. But I also try to add like the stationary bike or spin bike. If I want to do something that's not running, I'll do that or go on a walk. And then we've been doing tennis, either playing tennis or lessons 1 day a week, and that tends to be more aerobic, because even if I am running for a short distance on the court, I'm not getting my heart rate up necessarily as high continuously. So it tends to stay in that more zone two. So I have other things that I do to help kind of increase your aerobic capacity, like you mentioned, and that's not running. So it gives your body a break. I'm like you, I can't run more than 4 or 5 days a week at the most. Overuse injuries over the years. Everybody's body's different, right? So some people can run that many days a week and have no issue. But for me, I can't do more than 5 days a week. So I'd have to mix in other things to kind of help. And like I said, I'd rather bike or do the elliptical if it means I can still move my body in a meaningful way and still get a workout. I mean, it's not ideal, but like I said, doing something is more ideal.
Training is not fun, even especially if you're doing a marathon training and it's all the speed workout that you have to do, and then this volume, it's intense. And how is your training going right now?
So
Are you
far,
still doing 20, 20, 30?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's usually around there. Sometimes it's a little bit more. This past week, I came down with a cold, so I kind of took a few days off from running and just tried to focus on doing some easy miles. And then I did my long run on Sunday. So it's it's going okay, other than getting over this cold that I acquired. But my goal has just been to stay consistent. So I'm trying to stick to my training plan to some extent, trying to do my speed work, my long run, my easy runs, and try to get all that done. And I feel okay. So overall, I feel decent. The full marathon, I think, is about 16 weeks away. I think it's coming up in October that I signed up for. So I'm definitely going to start ramping up my long runs. And I've done 12 to 13 mile runs anyway right now in this winter and spring. So I think I've built up a pretty good base. So I'm hopefully for when marathon training officially kicks in, if it hasn't already with my training plan, then I should feel strong and feel okay. It's just going to take a little bit more effort to make sure that I get those long runs in. That's going to be the challenge, I think, for me. But other than that, it's been okay so far.
If you compare yourself right now, right? So you have gone through so much, right? So if you look back at yourself now, so are you happy where you are?
Yeah, I would say I am. I'm always a little bit of a perfectionist, though, when it comes to things. So part of me still feels like I have work to do. I feel like I need to still, I have room for improvement, but I feel better. I feel much better where I'm at now compared to because not only was it scary, it was just you just couldn't do the things you normally do. Like going up a flight of stairs, I was winded. It was never an issue before. Doing speed workouts, I couldn't do that for a duration where I was on a track doing set workouts before. I was lucky to maybe sprinkle in a little bit of speed work during a lunch run if I felt up to it to see how I felt. So it was quite the shift. But now I feel mostly better. I feel like I can actually do the work. I think what still I still struggle with is the mental part. So it's kind of the confidence thing. It's like believing in myself that I can do hard things. I can do this. When you're training, it's never fun all the time. It's going to be work sometimes. And then just believing in that I can put in the work. I think that's probably the only thing that I'm still kind of struggling with. I'll be very honest with you, is believing in my ability to do the work the right way. But other than that, physically, I feel a lot better. It's amazing. And I'll have probably another follow-up here with my cardiologist pretty soon. So, see how things are progressing. And she didn't think it was necessary to do another ultrasound of the heart or anything unless I was still not feeling good at that point. But, I've been feeling okay, so I'm guessing everything's okay too, right? But we'll kind of reevaluate when I see her next too. So hopefully I'm completely on the mend and everything's completely fine. But so far it's been okay.
I hope so too. I think what might help you is, can you describe how you feel right now in one word before, when you imagine yourself in that place, right? So when you were going to this emergency room and they don't know what the hell is going on, and you probably thought that I could never run again, and you are not, you are here right now, right? So
Mhm.
how is this feeling for you in one word? If you had to describe it, then what would that be?
Yeah, grateful. So very grateful. I can still run.
Yeah, so in that note, so next time you feel this way, where you feel like I'm not up to the speed I am, or whatever you feel like, and when you are so self critical of yourself, so remember that word. So, you
Thank
are
you.
grateful
Yeah,
because,
that's a good
yeah,
point.
that might help you. Yeah, that might help you because we are so critical of ourselves. And we talked about earlier, like Lucy said, the comparison, a thief of joy. So maybe instead of being self-critical, being grateful may help you,
Yeah.
because that way you are not putting yourself in pressure. And like you said, you want to change this way where you want to feel the love again for running, right? So that may help. So I don't know,
Yeah, no, that's a good
grateful is the
point.
key word.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think I have tried to shift that mindset over the months to be grateful and then relying on the sense of community that the running community is, either online or in person. Other people have gone through similar things that they'll help lift you up and give you that support. And you do the same for them when they go through things like that. And knowing that there are people out there that will run with you and make sure you're okay. And those things really make a big difference. I had a lot of friends when I was in the hospital, like a lot of running friends were checking in on me, and that was a big deal. And I think that sense of community also helps me realize you're never alone in doing what you're doing. And whether it's chasing a goal or just to get back to doing what you loved, they're always going to be there to help support you too, and that makes a big difference. So I try to remain grateful for a lot of things, and that way when things don't go the way we hoped, that you're still like, okay, I can still do this, and that's a big deal.
Yep. Yeah. I also try to think that we are grateful to run because some people can't, and this is the sport that we are choosing to do it. Nobody's forcing us to run,
Right, right.
and some people are paid to run, but this is what we said we will do. So I always feel that I'm so lucky to run because most people can't have this luxury or this privilege. I think this is a privilege that we can run these longer distances that and enjoy this.
Yeah, it is definitely a privilege. And I think looking at it that way too makes running even more, it's like a sweeter thing, right? So it's a privilege, and we're very lucky that we can do it. Even if you don't race, just being able to run in a safe environment or running in proper clothes and shoes. I mean, those things, it's a big privilege. You don't have to have a fancy watch or anything like that to run. You can just go, right? Even though I don't think I've done that in so long, but maybe that's something for me to try. Just go run without my watch and just to see how you feel, right? But it's definitely a privilege to be able to move and run and sign up for races even too. That's definitely a privilege that we're lucky to have.
In that also, how did that 5K go in June?
Oh,
How
yeah.
did you felt?
So
How did that felt? It's that's a big change for you because coming through all of that, whatever happened in the last year in your life, from being this fast runner to have this uncertainty, and then now you're slowly going back to your groove. So how did that felt when you lined up for that race?
so I felt pretty okay. I was nervous. I always get nervous, but I think I did it in 24 minutes, which is not my best time, but it's still a respectable time. The difficulty was
It's
that day,
fast.
yeah, 24 minutes. But the difficulty was that day, and I don't know if much of this travels around the world in the news, but we had wildfires from Canada coming down, and the smoke was affecting the air quality. So normally, the air quality is not a problem around here, but with those wildfire and the smoke kind of coming down over Michigan and all these other adjacent states, it was a problem and it was bad that weekend. So you don't know what it's going to be like when you wake up, but it didn't look like it was going to be bad. So it's like they have it color coded. So it was like green is good, yellow is moderate, orange is like unhealthy for like people who have issues. And I do have asthma. So it was in the orange range. And then it was so humid that morning that I struggled to run the whole race. So I was probably on track to do even better. But there was a point after mile two that I had to make some stop and walk and do like walk run until the last bit because of the air quality. So it was the air was so thick, Ash, you couldn't even, it was like a struggle to breathe. And I was burning my lungs. It was just not a good feeling. So that in itself was not helpful, I think, in terms of racing the way I'd hoped. Again, you never know what race day is going to be like, right? You don't know how you're going to feel. You don't know what the weather's going to be like. You don't know how the air quality is going to be like now. I have to look for that here. But I'm glad that I did it in still a decent time, and had those variables not existed, I think I would have done even better potentially. So that gives me hope that I think I'm on the right path. And running in the summer and racing in the summer, I never put any hope into doing any kind of PR just because it's either too hot or humid. It's not realistic, right?
Yeah.
You're training and doing all this stuff, and if you happen to, like I usually happen to PR either in the spring or the fall, typically if I'm going to try to do that because the temperatures are much more conducive for that too. But yeah, so I knew I wasn't going to maybe do my personal best, but I know with those conditions, it didn't help, but I felt decent and I felt race ready, so that was good. Racing for me has been like I haven't really raced a whole lot this year either, and part of me is kind of happy that I'm not racing just because even though if it's like a 5K or a smaller race, like you have to get up early, you got to go there, you got to do this and that, and part of me is like there's no fear of missing out on these races. I've registered for a few, which I find are important to me or have a good cause. Like the one I did in June was to raise money for like the leader dogs for the blind. They have that here and we're in the city we live. So I try to register for things that are meaningful, but I don't feel like I need to run 5K every month or race every month. I am kind of gotten past that and only registering for things I really want to. So not racing has also taken a lot of pressure off me too. And because no matter what I say, if I'm just going to go in and run for fun, I'm still going to try to race. I'm still going to try to push.
Yeah.
I think that's just the mindset that I have whenever I line up for a run or a race, rather. You're still going to try to push yourself a little bit, right? So not having that extra pressure has been helpful. That way I don't feel like, okay, I'm comparing myself. I'm not where I'm at. Why am I doing this? That negative self-talk kicks in and it's not good. It's not going to help you out at all. So I'm glad I'm not racing as much, but still proud of the effort that I gave in June and hopefully it'll be, you know, onward and upward for the next races that I have signed up.
Mm. Definitely, it will be. And I I like what you said because I also used to do a lot of races, and when I was living in Florida, especially. And coming back to you, there is a race coming in October for you too, the
Yeah,
5K.
no,
So
it's the Detroit Free Track Marathon. And they have like a 1 mile 5K and then a half or full option. And the cool part about that race is you're going over the border into Canada and you run in Windsor for a little bit, then you come back over. So you cross the Ambassador Bridge and then we come back through the tunnel. And so it's kind of there's an international component to it, which is kind of cool. So they have the international half, the full marathon is international, and they have a US only half marathon for people who want to participate but can't maybe go over the border or they don't register in time. So that last half runs with the marathon too. So, and they have a 1 mile and 5K and like a kids fun run or something the Saturday before. So I signed up for went through Motown fashion because we have the Motown Museum and all that's part of Detroit. They call it the Supreme Challenge. So you're signing up for the 1 mile 5K on Saturday and then doing the full on Sunday. So, but obviously Saturday I'm not going to be racing those races. They're going to be more like a shakeout run or run walk or something, right? I'm not going to be any kind of goal for those two races. But Sunday will be the full marathon, and that will be a goal race for me. I'm going to try to do my best to knock some time off my previous marathon and hope for the best. It's October, so you never know what the weather's going to be like here, too. The race has been known to be either hot that day or too cold or it's snowing or it's raining. You don't know what's going to
yeah.
happen. So you just kind of hope for the best and believe in your training and just see what happens on race day. So yeah, that's coming up. And then I signed up for it's like a quarter marathon distance in next month and to help support my friend's race. Like she's kind of put together a race for her daughter's vascular birthmark and raise awareness. So every year she puts on a race and I try to sign up for it to help support and it's always a good cause. So I'm gonna do that in early August, I think. And that'll be interesting to see how I do there. It's a very hilly course, so we'll see.
So no PR.
Possibly not. No, but not every run or race is going to be that way. So just go in and
True.
have fun and try to do your best, I guess. That's what I try to do for myself, right? I want to feel strong. I want to know I put my best effort in, and let's walk away knowing I did that, then I feel okay, whatever the time says. Then try not to put too much pressure on myself anymore.
Yeah, I think that is important too. And since you are the sports physiologist, because you work in that, has having this medical background in yourself has helped you to become or train better.
Yeah, I think it has. During grad school, I learned a lot about the human body and exercise, and I've had a lot of great mentors and a lot of wonderful professors throughout grad school, and knowing basic things about the body too. It does help, and it really. I was just thinking about this earlier. It's like you go back to the basics. You realize, okay, this is not meant to be that complicated, right? Like if you have an injury, don't run on it or don't do something.
Run.
Like I was sick this past week and a half, right? I don't feel good. My body is telling me I'm tired and I don't feel good. I'm not going to go run. Why would I go do that, right? But so many people, and there's a
Mhm.
physiological reason behind your body's trying to fix itself. If you're trying to add more stress to it by going for a run, no matter how easy it is, you are not helping your body out at all recover whatsoever. Just like there's science to back why after you running a full marathon, that you want to take a good 2 weeks off from running. Your body on a cellular level is trying to heal. Like you may feel fine, but your body's on a cellular level is trying to figure what happened. I mean, running a marathon is stressful on the body. And I
Mhm.
remember my cardiologist said, "Did you see the study about like what the sweet spot is for running how many marathons are acceptable, right, for the human body?" And I said, I didn't see the study and I have to ask her about it. But she said, I think the number was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 in your lifetime, like full marathons. And I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But I remember it wasn't a very high number. I'm thinking, oh boy, so there's a lot of people out there running a couple of marathons a year, and that's fine. Everybody's
Yeah, yeah.
body is different, but I take that in and hold on to that because the science, our our heart is a muscle. So when it's beating and when you're putting it under that kind of strain or stress, it's also tearing that muscle in the heart too. And it has to take time to go back together as well. So if you
Mhm.
don't take that time off to let your body heal, it's not good, one. But two, constantly doing those marathons over and over and over again, that strain on the heart down the road, your heart's not going to be able to pump effectively, right? You can have stiffening of the muscle and it can cause other problems. And I won't go down that road. But either way, it's just, I know a lot about the heart and the human body now working in a clinical setting too, and it helps me put things into perspective. It's kind of it seems basic to me, but it's not always basic knowledge. So that's why I try to help people out. If you're having injuries, are you running too much? Are you, and some of it's anecdotal, like I've been through the same thing too, right? But our human bodies are all built differently and can withstand things differently too. So having that knowledge definitely helps, and I try to help other people with that knowledge too. And like I said, from a just a general exercise physiology standpoint to a clinical standpoint, there's so much that I try to incorporate for myself, trying to keep my heart rate down on my easy runs or trying to make sure that I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to do, fueling properly, getting enough sleep. All those things impact us in general, but when you add training into that, you need more sleep, you need to eat more, you need to fuel more, you need to hydrate more. All those things make sense, but it's not always intuitive, I think, for a lot of people. So again, that's why I try to help people out if I can. If it's solicited, I don't give out, I don't go out of my way and like, oh, you should do this. If someone wasn't asking, I try not to interject unless someone asks me for some advice.
In that note, so what has been the biggest myth that you hear about running or training that like drives you crazy as an
Oh,
exercise physiologist?
yeah. So a lot of people think that they have to run more and run a lot to build up. I do believe that you have to run, right, to train for distances. But a lot of people think that you have to run every day or you have to hit a certain mileage. And that's not true. I've learned that the hard way, and I'm sure it sounds like you have too when you've ran too much and the volume is too much or the days are too much. I know when I was running and training for my first half marathon, I felt pretty good, but I also had a lot of injuries and problems along the way. And so less isn't always a bad thing. You don't have to run more. That kind of drives me crazy. And then some people, I know with this whole wellness and fitness industry that's kind of emerged more with social media, like getting certain fueling in or this and that. Like there's always something new out there. And it's great. I think it's awesome that there's options for people that may have certain preferences and that and this, but I'm just like, eat a well-rounded diet. Don't get your stuff in whole foods. Try to eat less processed foods. And I still use Gatorade. I don't use a lot of these other electrolyte replacement things unless it's in a gel, but I typically just use Gatorade and it works. A lot of people have this phobia of sugar, and that's the thing we need the most is when we run carbs, sugars. Your body isn't going to tell the difference between the Pop Tart you eat before a run or what I mean, or something healthy. It's gonna break it down into sugar. I've, and I'm a Pop Tart user. I use that for my runs in the morning because it's easy to digest and I get some fuel. And when I was training for my last half, I was up at like 3:45, 4 in the morning, twice a week to go up and do my runs before work. Yeah. And the thing that I could tolerate were Pop Tarts. I was eating those before my runs and it worked out fine. It didn't upset my stomach. It worked out. I was able to do my 7 to 10 mile runs, whatever I had speed work that day. And it worked out. So some people get a little bit hesitant about, and I'm all good for eating clean and stuff, but sometimes fuel is fuel. So you need to fuel your body, whatever that means, whatever it takes. It's better than not fueling your body at all. And like I said, sometimes I think that people get a little too specific about what they're putting in their bodies when they're training. Like I said, I'm not going to tell you to go out and eat like crap either, because that's not going to do good for your body. But when it comes for fueling for runs, I think sometimes we overthink things a little bit too much with that.
I don't know what Pop Tart is. I think I was talking to him and I looked at it and it said it was. I never tested that and it's banned in Germany, so maybe that's why.
I am not surprised it's banned in Germany. It's not very healthy, I'll tell you that. It's not. I only use it for fuel for running, but definitely not healthy. And they taste okay. They're not bad, but like I said, it's not something I try to eat on a regular basis, just for, oh, excuse me, just for fueling and training purposes only.
I'll have to try when I'm back in the US
Yeah,
one of
yeah,
these days.
yeah.
And also, like we talked about so much thing, as you being the exercise physiologist, is there any specific metrics or tools do you recommend for runners to track or something like that? Or what do you use or what do you track
Oh,
yourself?
that's a good question. So I know there's a lot of talk about like the HRV and your heart rate variability. I take that with a grain of salt. I mean, it does help you determine like where your training status is, if you're overtraining, if you're not getting enough rest, those things will help. But for me, the biggest thing that I use still is heart rate, and more so my resting heart rate. So if my resting heart rate is a little bit elevated, which kind of, again, when I wasn't feeling good last week, my resting heart rate was up and it was uncomfortable. I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely fighting something. So why would I go run and push it even further? But I use that as a good metric. If it's a lower resting heart rate, meaning I'm much more trained, I'm doing well aerobically. It sounds like it's like so basic, but that's kind of what I use to gauge how fit I am. and noticing the trend of my heart rate, even when I'm exercising, it's not getting up as high, and I may be able to run a little bit faster, and my heart rate's still on the lower side. So that those are the metrics that I use, and I try to keep, a cadence is great, your pace, all this other stuff is good to look at, but cadence is everybody's body's built differently too. So you're not always going to run the perfect cadence, and you're not always going to get it's just going to work differently for different people. And a lot of these tools that we have, you take it with a grain of salt, like the Apple Watch or Garmin, they're using all this data that they're pulling, but I mean, it still has a margin of error, so you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. You know, getting enough sleep and fueling properly, all those things, you give your body a better chance to recover, and having those built-in rest days, right? So that's for me, heart rate is the metric that I continue to use even over the years, that shows that I'm training properly, and seeing that, like I said, that trend of that lower heart rate, resting heart rate, is a good thing. Your heart doesn't have to work as hard at rest. That means, you've been training pretty well. So I try not to get caught up in all the extra stuff, because you'll go crazy, that number game, right? It's, every now and then I'll look at my data, and I always look at it after a post run, and you look at it'll give me the cadence, it'll give me this, it'll give me that. I'm like, I don't need to, I don't want to know about it too much. I don't want to obsess about it too much. It's easy to get obsessive with numbers and paces and everything when we're running. So I try to just like accept it. Okay, it is what it is, and know that some of the technology we use is still, unless you're going into a lab and getting things tested, and your form, your cadence, and all those things, and different equipment, then that you don't truly know what your numbers are necessarily. So any risk technology I take with a grain of salt, because it's not 100% accurate all the time. It's going to have a little bit of problems along the way too.
What's that one piece of advice that you would give to runners who is trying to build strength or avoid injuries?
Oh yeah, so I'm not very good at this either, and at one point I was, but strength training. So it's very, as runners, we don't utilize that very often. I tell anybody and everybody I
Mhm.
can, strength train at least once or twice a week. You don't have to be complicated about what you do. You don't have to lift, lifting heavy is ideal, but you're better off doing something, right, than not doing anything, because muscles need that extra support, and muscles are attached to bone and tendons and stuff. So if you don't strengthen those muscles around everything, then you're more prone to injury. So before, I had back surgery back in 2018, and I was lifting religiously and running, and I know my running improved with the lifting. I can tell it really helped. The muscles were stronger, and I felt great. So I think, if any prescriptive advice I could give, is to definitely strength train 1 to 2 times a week for at least 20 or 30 minutes. Just do something, whether it's machines or free weights or body weight. It's better to do that to help improve your running, and potentially, hopefully, minimize any kind of injuries along the way. It really helps. And it will improve your running, believe it or not. It does quite a bit. Your muscles are stronger, and it helps with body composition. So a lot of people, want to look good too, right? So there's a lot of good reasons why you should be lifting weights. But as most runners struggle with, I'm with that category. We struggle with necessarily fitting it in. Yeah, you too. Okay, now I'm not alone.
Me too,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's hard, to fit it in. And there's always this talk about, when should you strength train? Should it be before or after a run? And I guess it just kind of depends on what you're trying to go for. If you're trying to do endurance, then you'd want to probably strength train. Let me see if I'm thinking saying this right. So endurance would probably be, you'd strength train and then run. And that's what I would used to do, is I'd strength train and then I'd go run, because that way I have the energy to strength train. That's the problem, right? When you run, you may not have the energy to do the strength training. So
Yeah.
get it out of the way. If that's an issue, just do it first and then run. And, typically you want to keep if you're doing any kind of workout, like a speed workout, you want to try to keep your strength training on that day if you can too, because you're going to be putting in work anyway. But to me, sometimes that isn't always realistic. So I just say get it in when you can, that's more important. Although I do try to space out strength training before a long run because sometimes I'm too sore and then it'll impact my long run. So I try to at least have a few days
Yeah.
where, I'm not pushing it too close to a long run necessarily, but definitely strength training is a game changer. If you can do it consistently, it'll help all around.
Definitely, that's something I need to. I'm guilty of it. I was doing it regularly for 10 days. I think I was doing at least something, right? So
Mhm.
I have imbalance on my leg. So I was trying to do the single leg toe touch on my left leg, which is weaker. And then trying to do Bulgarian squat. Wherever I was going in the kitchen or I'm picking something, then I would just do those. But I have not done ever since this, like a small injury I had. I've been trying to not do anything.
I know. I know. You don't want to aggravate it. You don't want to make it worse potentially if you have something else going on. And I know sometimes it
Yeah.
seems counterintuitive, but you kind of do want to keep doing something, even if it's just upper body work, core work, something that kind of helps keep the other muscles going if you're trying to heal like a leg, or some muscle in
Mhm.
the leg. So yeah, it's kind of how I go to. I'll be consistent for a little while and then I'll end up stopping for a little bit again. So it's definitely a challenge for me too.
Yeah, I need to work on that. So we're in the same club. Few more questions. Few more questions left. The other thing would be, how do you see there is a relationship between the mental health and the exercise physiology for the endurance athletes?
Like, do you mean like how like there's a lot of people that run to help improve their mental health, or because a lot of people do. I think that's the biggest reason why people take to running is to help improve their mental health.
Yeah.
There's a book that I was reading, I think I finished, it's called Spark, and it's written by a psychologist that took exercise, not just running, and paired it with people that have like ADHD or dyslexia or depression and all these other things and prescribed exercise. Not only exercise, obviously they would have to use other things to help manage the issue, but using the exercise actually helped them improve their mental health and well-being too, along with whatever prescriptions and things that they had to take necessarily. But there's a big component, there's a big science behind, the brain and exercise and how it helps us so much. And I'd like to hopefully explore that down the road myself with, going back and getting my PhD. But I think that's a big thing is we do it because it helps our mental health and there's science to back it up, and there's no matter what's going on, we know we have this thing that we can rely on and then just moving helps our brains and helps us feel better. So there's definitely a truth to it. And whether it's running or biking or walking, whatever we choose to do, it's good for us and good for our mental health too. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I kind of say that you necessarily don't always have to run,
Yeah,
or you don't even have to run because you can do biking or Zumba, even dance or do whatever you want. At
exactly.
least get some sort of moving thing that you can do and try to work on the mental health or help at least find a way to make it better.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think one question is, where does this mental health fit in your training? Do you approach it's like a muscle, or how do you approach this?
Yeah, I guess it's probably a good way to describe it. Like it's a muscle you have to work and keep doing to improve, right? And I've always been a proponent of if you need to seek help, talking to somebody professionally, relying on people to talk to. whether it's in that setting or your friends or family, definitely you never want to suffer in silence. So you want to talk to people. I think talking helps as well. But then, getting help if necessary is important. And then using healthy tools to manage that as well. So, exercising or running, those things are, can be useful and helpful for somebody who is maybe trying to manage their anxiety or depression. But I will never understate the importance of, getting help. I think the importance of talking to a professional, taking medication. I mean, that's so important if it's needed and can help people get back on track if that's what's, necessary. But having a healthy habit like exercising in general can really help improve mood and that's important too. And the more you do, I mean, it should help, I mean, there's obviously you can overdo exercising and running, we know that, right? But there's that kind of just like anything else, everything in moderation. So you have to be careful, right? But I think doing that really helps. And yeah, I think, you can't go wrong. You just got to keep doing the right things for you to help improve your mental well-being.
I definitely agree with that. And now we have two things left. So there is this rapid fire round. So I'll just ask you a random questions, and you just have to answer with whatever comes to your mind. So
Okay.
what do you like?
Okay, I'll go for it.
Okay. Morning or evening run?
Morning.
Road or trails?
Oof. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say both. I like both.
Long run or speed workout?
Oof. Lately, I've been kind of favoring the speed work. I like the challenge,
Yeah,
even if it's tough, even if I'm struggling to finish the interval, I'm kind of liking the speed work aspect lately, It's kind of weird.
I figured. I figured that. Favorite race distance?
I will always say the half marathon is the ideal long and mid distance because marathon is just a marathon. That's just it's daunting in itself. A 5K, if you race it right, is not pleasant. That is a red line from the start to finish if you're racing it. So it's uncomfortable. And then the 10K, still haven't quite understood how to pace accordingly. And I don't do very many, right? So you get to it, you're like, did I go out too fast? Did I have, it's just kind of a weird mental thing too, right? Physically, I find a half marathon, it's doable. You can train and you're not going to necessarily worry about how much you put in. And I think that's like the ideal distance. But that's just my take.
Music, podcast, or silence on long runs?
I still use music. I know a lot of people are trying to run without headphones more and more. And I don't do it by choice. Like if my headphones die, then okay, it's it's a silent run, You're out there, you didn't charge or something, right? But I prefer to listen to music when I run. It's just makes it a little bit more enjoyable too.
Two things left. If you couldn't run tomorrow, what would you do instead?
Oh, I would take up biking seriously, like really put in the miles biking. I would do that and spend more time on the tennis courts, maybe really actually play matches and try to maybe join a league. There's always something that you can do. And that's why I try to stay well-rounded, you never know what tomorrow will bring. So if I could do something different instead, I'll do it. Will I be upset and sad? Absolutely, but I would do some other things in the process.
So this is the final question, and I usually ask this to everybody. I would like you to please finish this sentence. Running has changed my life because.
It's changed my life because it's shown me what I'm capable of physically. I've been through a lot, having giving birth, back surgery, being sick, injuries. Despite all that, I'm still able to do what I'm doing. So it shows me what I'm capable of. And And I've made such great friendships along the way too. So I think that's been, a wonderful aspect of running for me the last few years is the sense of community. So I think those two things are just kind of what makes running for me.
All right. I mean, that was good. I learned a lot about you today,
Yeah.
and it was nice having this
Likewise.
conversation
Likewise.
and knowing about you. So I hope you can cross your marathon. So I'll be watching you
Oh yeah.
and
I'll
then
keep you
seeing how you
posted.
do in the marathon.
Thank
Uh,
you. Yes.
Yeah, and I appreciate you taking your time and talking to me today. And then this was fun.
Yeah.
And I should probably ask more questions about the exercise physiology, which we can do again next time.
Yeah, that's okay. I can be a little more prepared too. No, that's all good. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And good luck with your ultra marathon training too. I'll be watching and keeping an eye on how you're doing. And sounds like you're on the right path. So that's a good sign. And hopefully running continues to be enjoyable for you and not so much of a chore, That's all I can hope for all the runners out there, that it's an enjoyable thing for everybody.
Definitely. I will let you know in few weeks how it goes, if I can finish it. So I think that's the goal, is to just go and
Always.
enjoy it and not care about the time. So
Exactly.
yeah, so
Yes, you'll do
it will
great.
be
You'll do
we'll
great.
see. Thank you. I hope so. So yeah, thank you so much for your time and talk to you again next time.
Yeah, sounds
Bye
good.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, thank you for making it to the end of the podcast. I hope you really enjoy this conversation. I'll see you again next time with another guest. Until then, happy running.